Hello and welcome to another episode of Chasing Hope with me, Catherine Abraham. Today, we are about to discuss a very important and significant figure for three religions of this world: Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. Interestingly, he is also known as the founder or the patriarch for all three religions. Yes, you guessed it right, we are talking about Abraham. Now, if we go back to the Bible, one of the most important verses written about Abraham read as this: By faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. It's so interesting and so intriguing at the same time that a person who absolutely had no idea where God was taking him just leaves his home and everything to it and continues in faith to exactly where God leads him. But more interesting is the fact that Abraham did not just come out of any land. He came out of the land of Ur, which is in Mesopotamia today, and he was also one of those people who believed in polytheism. He goes down as the first patriarch and as the first person who went on to actually redefine his faith and become a monotheist. For those of you who are unaware of who Abraham really is, Abraham is known as the wife of Sarah, the father of Isaac, and also the father of Ishmael. Ishmael being the patriarch for the Islamists or the Muslims. Now, it's very important to realize the circumstances in which Abraham was living back in the day. At a time when the world was already in its own vices, very caught up, here was Abraham who was ready to leave everything for an unknown God, a God who had no name as yet in his life. And yet he went and he made sure that he restarted his life on the exact terms as what God made him to. Now, as a sign or a symbol or a covenant, whatever you may call it, God made sure that he promised Abraham that his sons and his further generations would be like the stars of the sky and the sands of the sea. Which is by and large a little funny because Abraham had no issues for almost 90 plus years. And here's the thing, not once did Abraham go forward and ask, God, I am an old man. How will I now have a child? And yet he did. He did have Isaac, who then later on became the father of the Jews. But here's another interesting turn. When Isaac was a young lad, God called on Abraham and asked him to do the most impossible thing for any human being in the world today. He asked him to sacrifice Isaac. Here was a man who, after all of these years of praying and working for God, and working only for God, was now told to sacrifice his only child. Without a second thought, without a hesitation, he immediately followed God's instructions and took the lad on the exact mountain he was expected to. And as he raised his hand to kill the child as a sacrifice, the angel of the Lord stopped him. And this is why Abraham plays such a vital role in redefining our lives and our faith. Because here is a person who believed when it was impossible to believe. Here is a person who gives us hope that if God is putting us through any trial and any tribulation, there is a reason. Maybe it's just a test of our faith. Now, while all of this is true and certain, it becomes important to also establish that yes, this grand old patriarch, the father of the three fundamentally largest religions in the world, actually existed. Now, many questions were raised, but the tables turned when archaeological research made enormous strides after World War I. The discovery of various monuments, documents, artifacts, all of which date back to the period assigned to the patriarchs in our biblical accounts. It is during this time that they excavated a royal palace in Mari. Now, why is this so important for us? Because this particular Mari is an ancient city on the river Euphrates. For thousands of years, the uniform tablets which were there were nothing but official archives, proof of correspondence of religious and juridical texts, all offering a new extra biblical account to back up all the accounts and narratives in the book of Genesis. So, when you look at it carefully, you will see that it is in this period that a biblical scholar in the 1940s, when he went through all the documents that were available along with the artifacts, he aptly determined and termed this result as the rediscovery of the Old Testament. Now, historical scholarship and archaeology both gives us a definitive answer that yes, Abraham is in fact the patriarch of these three religions. The first thing that we need to remember is the existence of the city of Ur, where Abraham came from. This place is today identified as Ur Kaśdim, which was the Sumerian city of Ur and now located in present-day Baghdad. The existence of this city is also backed up with the city of Haran, which is identified in modern-day Turkey with the same name. Shechem and Bethel have also been found exactly the place as mentioned in the Bible. Now, the tablets that were excavated at Mari also provide corroborative evidence which completely supports the existence and the truth of the biblical patriarchs. They also confirm the reference of Hapiru. Hapiru is basically the Hebrews in that particular day and age. It also, through various means, determines similar practices that were present at the time that has been recorded in the Bible. For example, the slaughtering of animals when covenants were made. Pagan gods, also with the same name. Judges, similar to the judges of the Old Testament. And not to forget, personal names such as Noah, Abraham, Laban, and Jacob all find their place in historical evidences. Most of all, the socio-economic conditions of that time are also well recorded and well established. Now, many people say the dating of Abraham is disputed and therefore it leads to skepticism on his reality. But the truth is, my friend, that history has not always got the dates accurate. In fact, there is an overwhelming amount of evidence that is yet to be found. But there's still more now to establish that there is genuineness on the presence of Abraham. So, the basic first fact is A, the existence of Ur, then, of course, the existence of the tablets which go on to talk about the socioeconomic conditions, the entire religious customs of the day. In fact, even the rituals and traditions are all recorded exactly the way they are in the Bible. So, what stops us from believing that these are truthful and solid evidences, extra biblical accounts to whatever is in the Bible? But learning about Abraham is important from the point of view that, yes, of course, he is the first Jew, the patriarch, he is the first founder of all of these religions. But most importantly, let's also remember that Abraham was very human. Now, in a conversation with a friend, she went on to say that Abraham was perfect in every way. He did everything that God told him. He did exactly what God told him. Now, she is not wrong, but she is not entirely correct too. Because Abraham, just like one of us, had his own flaws and limitations. In his case, whenever they traveled, Abraham had this internal insecurity that maybe if a king of the land that he was visiting cast an eye on Sarah, his wife, they would want to take her. And that is because Sarah was extremely beautiful for the women of that day. And hence, he went ahead and lied not once but twice. And each time he said that she is his sister. So you can well imagine that a man of that faith also chose to lie because he was scared of earthly authority. But here's the thing, God rescued him each time he lied because God knew that despite everything, he was also very human and he needed assistance. Sometimes we too become Abraham. We too tend to allow our limitations and challenges to overwhelm us, and we make these tiny errors. But these tiny errors are just proof of our perfectly flawed selves. So my friends, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you have now established that Abraham is not another fictional character, but he in fact existed. There are various records that are available, and it is our duty to go forward and read up on them. Please go ahead if you have any suggestions, if you have prayer requests, and if you have anything that you'd like us to cover in terms of biblical facts or even Christian principles on chasing hope, please let us know, and I will be more than happy to incorporate them in one of our later episodes. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I look forward to meeting you in the next episode. Have a wonderful week ahead.